Welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where today we're checking out a rowdy hardtail from the big guy out on the trail. That's right, we're checking out a Trek Roscoe 6. The Roscoe 6 is one of the most popular trail bikes for beginner to mid-level mountain bikers that are looking for a hardtail to extend their riding capability. And for 2022, the Roscoe line got a major upgrade. But this one we're checking out here, the Roscoe 6, is a bit unlike the others. So this video, we're gonna go into the features and designs, check out what's different about this compared to the other 2022s. And then of course, we'll find out exactly what it weighs. If this kind of thing is interesting to you, stick around and let's check out this bike. The Trek Roscoe 6 is one of the most popular mountain bikes for beginner to intermediate level riders. And by that I mean a hardtail mountain bike like this is a really great place to get started, but it's also a place where somebody might buy a bike like this for more than just mountain biking. And that's really where this Trek Roscoe 6 comes in. Now, talking a bit about this type of bike, the Roscoe series has been around now in its 3rd generation, and all the models except for the Roscoe 6 have a brand new frame for this year. And that's where the big difference is gonna be. So initially, if we go back to when the Roscoe initially came out, it was really that beginner to intermediate rider like we were talking about. And they used a frame that was shared with their Excalibur 29er mountain bike, their XC bike. Well, the bike we're checking out here, this Roscoe 6, is a bit different because this runs 2.8-inch mid-fat tires on a 27.5-inch wheel. And a 27.5-inch wheel is going to give similar rollover to a 29er, so they could put it into that frame, but it gives a bit more confidence with that extra tire size compared to traditional 29. The other thing they did is they added 120 millimeters of suspension travel up front to give it a bit more capability and slacken out that head tube and seat tube angle. Well, for 2022, the Roscoe 7 and up come with a 140 millimeter fork. They come with 29-inch wheels only and a lot more slack geometry. So let's talk about slack. When I say that, that's kind of how angled the front end of the bike is, and in most cases, how long the reach is. So basically, as you extend the front end, you tighten up the back wheel in and you slacken the head tube. You're gonna make a bike that's gonna descend quite a bit better. It's gonna be a little more rowdy in the way that it feels. But on the flip side, especially at lower speeds, it's gonna feel a little more sluggish. The more slack and aggressive you make a bike, the faster you have to go to get it to come alive. And that's really where I think this bike shines. So I'm so glad that Trek kept the Roscoe 6, which is the least expensive version, in the lineup with the old frame, because this is going to use a lot more conservative geometry. So those beginner riders are still going to be able to make the bike come alive and make it feel pretty good, nice and quick. So if we check it out, this bike's going to have 120 millimeters of front travel. It's got a head tube angle, 67.2 degrees, about 2 degrees steeper than the Roscoe 7. Seat tube angle comes in at 69.6 degrees, which is right around 3.5 degrees slacker than the Roscoe 7. And then the chainstay length is going to be 438 millimeters, which is only about 8 millimeters longer than the Roscoe 7. And so that's going to place this bike certainly in that little bit more beginner geometry range to allow a new rider to have a bit more fun on the bike. Now, controlling that fun is of course this SR Suntour XCM fork on the front end. This is 120 millimeters of suspension travel. It uses 32 millimeter stanchions. You do have a damper with a lockout on it. And then the front through axle is 15 by 110 boost. Now, the frame of the Roscoe 6 uses the same grade of aluminum, Trek's Alpha Gold aluminum, but of course with the geometry and design of the 2021. So 1.125" up top to 1.5" tapered head tube, internal cable routing as we go through the bike, threaded bottom bracket, and then going to the back, you're gonna see the controversial Boost 141 quick release rear axle. So instead of a through axle, it's quick release, which helps save cost, bring some of the price down, and then it allows them to keep stuff like rack mounts and fender mounts on the back if you wanted to add those things, especially if you were going to use this bike as a dual purpose usage. And that's really where the Roscoe 6 is going to shine, is it's more than just a downhill brawler. But if you're a more capable rider, or you want a little bit higher headroom as far as how much you could grow into the bike, that's going to be where you'd have to think about ponying up a little bit extra to start at that Roscoe 7 to get the newer, more progressive frame geometry. Moving into the drivetrain of the Roscoe 6, we've got a Shimano Deore 10-speed setup. And this is a 1x10, basically meaning that there's a single ring up front and then 10 gears out back to do the full range of shifting. So if we look at the back first, we've got Shimano's Deore rear derailleur. This is a clutch derailleur. So right now, kind of the whole thing can bounce around, your chain can, but we've got this lever that you can lift up, which helps control the cage of the derailleur. You can see here, keeps things a lot more snug to help stay quiet while you're riding so that the chain isn't slapping against the frame. Now you see the frame will be covered with a rubber chainstay protector, which is a nice feature. And then the cassette on the bike is going to be an 1146 tooth cassette. So super wide range of gearing out back, which is driven forward to a 28 tooth narrow wide chainring mounted up on this FSA Alpha Drive crankset. Like we said before, running through a threaded bottom bracket. Slowing the bike is provided by some Shimano hydraulic calipers. So you've got a hydraulic lever up top, and going down to the wheels, you'll see that it's 2 piston hydraulic calipers clamping down on a 6-bolt rotor. Cockpit wise on the bike, we've got a fairly basic alloy setup. So it is running a super wide alloy Bontrager handlebar, which is connected to a alloy Bontrager blender stem, which means you can add adapters like a front light mount as well as a cell phone or GPS mount. And going to the back is the Bontrager Arvada saddle mounted up on a Trans X seat post. Now this particular seat post that's on the bike comes in a few different travel lengths based on the size of the frame, but essentially what it can do is with your body weight on it and you press a lever, it's going to lower down to allow your body to get a little bit further back and have more stability on the bike. And then just from the lever, you can lift that saddle back up. And the lever that I'm talking about is right here on the cockpit. So basically it works just like a 1x style shifter. So you've got the thumb button to shift, press that down with your body weight, dropper drops down, take your body weight off and press it again, and it's gonna come right back up. Last thing to talk about on here is I do like that they integrate some lock-on grips. So this is more of a waffle style grip, and by lock-on what I mean is there's a little bolt right there that you can screw tight, and that's gonna keep these from spinning around on you. It's a much more secure connection to make sure you don't lose your grip while you're mountain biking. Last bit to talk about here is going to be how the bike's rolling on the ground, and that's courtesy of some Schwalbe Rocket Ron tires. So these Rocket Ron tires are a 27.5 by 2.8 inch width, and that's what we were referring to when we called this a mid-fat tire width. So traditionally you'd have a 27.5 by say 2.4 on a bike, or a 29er by 2.4, and where these come in, because tire height, so this portion of the tire is a function of how wide the tire is, it's a ratio. The mid-fat means as we go to that wider 2.8 to say 3.0 width, what it does is it increases the overall diameter. So this mid-fat is about halfway to a fat bike, but it's going to roll with the diameter more similar to a 29er than a 27.5. Well anyways, you've got those tires mounted up on some Alex MD 35 rims. It's a 35mm wide alloy rim and a good setup for this bike to roll on. The actual weight for the Trek Roscoe 6 size medium comes in and weighs 32.58 pounds. Thanks for watching this video on the 2022 Trek Roscoe 6. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to leave a thumbs up. It lets me know you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to subscribe and browse the channel if you'd like to see more things like this in the future.